Before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you guys about a few different jobs that are live right now over on Of the West. First up, with Beef Northwest Feeders, they're hiring a cattle procurement specialist. It's based out of North Powder, Oregon. This role is going to sit at the intersection of procurement and accounting. You're going to be handling daily cattle invoice payments, freight reconciliation, lot invoicing, month-end account balancing. They're also looking for someone willing to cross-train on transportation scheduling and logistics, so there's really room to grow into a broader role over time. They do prefer agree into accounting, ag business, or finance, and at least 2 years of experience in AP or agricultural finance. Next up, we've got Breeder. They're hiring an account manager. Breeder is an ag tech company, and they connect ranchers, feed yards, packers, and retailers through a platform that tracks individual cattle from genetics all the way through carcass quality. This is a remote role with travel, and the territory covers Texas Panhandle, Southwest Kansas, Western Oklahoma, and Southeast Colorado. You're going to be implementing that software with new customers, managing those relationships long-term, and helping producers get real value out of the data that they're collecting. They want somebody that has direct cattle industry experience. Feed yard background is preferred, and this role does require about 50% travel. You also do have to live in either the Texas Panhandle, Southwest Kansas, Western Oklahoma, or Southeast Colorado. Then we have 2 openings down in Stephenville and Decatur. The first is BCR Brands. They're hiring a sales assistant over in Stephenville. BCR, they've got a few different brands in the Western and lifestyle space: Horn Knot, Breakaway, Oh My Stars Apparel. They also have a custom apparel division called Brand Cowboy. This role is going to support the sales team with order entry, customer communication, and some warehouse work. It is full-time or part-time, and they say they see this as a starting point for somebody who really wants to grow within the company. So if you're looking for an entry-level role, that is the perfect job for you. And then over in Decatur, NRS, they are looking for an IT desktop support technician. This is a full-time role. You're going to maintain hardware and software across multiple company locations, responding to service requests, supporting remote sites. It does require about 30% travel between their various locations. They're looking for somebody who has at least 5 years of desktop support experience and 5 years of Windows support. Now, all 4 of those jobs and a ton more are live right now over on Of the West. So if any of those spark your interest, the link is in the show notes. And if it's not the right fit for you, but you know of somebody who would be perfect, please send it their way, because that's what friends do. Now, let's get into today's episode. Anybody can post absolutely anything, and it can be believed to be a cold hard fact by the people who read it.
Welcome to Leaders of the West, a podcast for innovators and changemakers. I'm your host, Jessie Jarvis, the founder of the West, and I'm sitting down with agriculturalists, entrepreneurs, executives, and everyone in between with the goal of digging into the strategies, mindsets, and lessons that have been crucial to the success of ag and Western. Whether you're carrying on the next generation of your family's operation, starting something from scratch, or determined to climb up the leadership ladder, we're going to inspire you to continue to dream big, growing not just you, but the future of agriculture and Western as a whole. Let's go.
Welcome to this week's episode of Leaders of the West. Of course, you guys, I am so incredibly happy to have you here again this week. In case you missed last week's episode, we are doing a new series this summer for the months of June and July, and they are all going to be solo episodes. So our guests are coming back in August, but I am so incredibly excited to sit down with you guys to talk a little bit more in depth, whether that is about job seeker resources, about how to make sure you're hiring the right person, kind of the West stuff of life, but then also just a lot of the lessons that I have learned and continue to learn daily, whether that is through parenting, business, just life in general, which I will tell you. And I'm sure if you have been a listener of the show by now, you definitely know that all of those things seem to coincide. What is a lesson in parenting is also usually a lesson that can be applied to leadership. Things in life can also be applied to business. So that's where we are. But today I want to talk to you guys about hard-boiled eggs. I know that seems a little odd, but hear me out on this, because I promise there is an ending to this. I am a hard-boiled egg girl. I love anything protein, especially any kind of protein that is low carb and low fat. However, the process of boiling eggs is a complete pain in the ass. You get the water ready, you wait for 10 minutes, you make sure it doesn't boil over. You put the eggs in, you make sure that those don't boil over. You wait 20 minutes, you dump the egg water, you chill the eggs, you wait more minutes, but not too long because then you're not going to be able to get the shells to come off the eggs. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, right? Then you can finally start the process of peeling. That is either going to go really successfully or very unsuccessfully. There is never an in-between. I will tell you, hard-boiled eggs, they make me feel like a babysitter, which if I wanted to be a babysitter, I would just go open a daycare, and Lord knows that would be a terrible idea. So in general, hard-boiled eggs, it is a lot of work to get to the good part, which is probably a good life lesson in general. I will tell you though, when it comes to hard-boiled eggs, I have finally mastered the best way of cooking them. It is the 10-5-10-minute method. So real quick, I'm going to give you that. So you put them in boiling water for 10 minutes. The water must be boiling the entire 10 minutes. So you get your pan, you get your pot of water, you turn it on high, you get it to boil, you put your eggs in, and then you continue to boil that for 10 minutes. Then when that timer goes off for 5 minutes, just take that pot off of that hot burner. I still leave it on the stove. They say that you can take the water out. I don't do that. So I just leave them in the hot water. I do uncover them, and you do that for 5 minutes. After that is up, you are going to drain that water and you are going to fill the remaining space in that pot with ice cubes. You're then going to set a timer for 10 minutes. At that point, you can peel them. I have done it right when the 10-minute timer goes off. I have done it an hour later, and they peel phenomenally. That being said, you still do have to babysit them because 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I feel like that timer on my wrist is always going off, but it is a foolproof method for hard boiling eggs. And when I tell you that I boil 30 at a time, and I probably do this twice a week, I literally eat 5 dozen hard-boiled eggs a week. So I love a good hard-boiled egg. But anytime I boil eggs, I think back to this one time specifically where the internet did me very, very wrong. And I remember years ago, probably 10 years ago at this point, I was on Pinterest and I saw a graphic that said that ice cubes and eggshells are really good at sharpening the knives in the garbage disposal. And I thought that was really cool, but at the time, we didn't have a garbage disposal. So then a few years later, we moved into the house that we currently live in, and wouldn't you know, there was a garbage disposal. Our kitchen sink is one of those. It has 2 basins. The one on the left-hand side is super shallow, and then there's like a larger, deeper sink to the right. And the one on the left is where our little disposal lives. So not long after moving in, I was making hard-boiled eggs. I will tell you, I was not doing the 10-5-10-minute method. And I went to peel them, and I remember thinking back to that thing that I saw on the internet about how eggshells are great disposal sharpeners. So I shelled all of my eggs into that little side of the sink. I put them down the disposal. I turned on the water. I turned on the disposal. And just like that, I thought, wow, I feel like the smartest little adult. Years went by. And every time I would shell my eggs, I would do the same thing. I'd peel them right into the disposal. I'd turn on the water. I'd flip on the switch. I'd sharpen my blades. Now, everything in a house breaks down at some point or another, especially when you live in one that was slammed together in 1998. So it did not come as a surprise to me. It was probably like 2019, 2020-ish when our garbage disposal quit working. I called a plumber, which is a pain in the butt when you live in rural America because they are never going to come that day. It is going to be days later, but he finally did show up. He went to work on our sink and I went to work elsewhere in our house. And about 20 minutes into this project, I walked through the kitchen and he said, "Ma'am, do you eat a lot of eggs?" And at this time, I was not hard boiling the 5 dozen a week that I told you about at the beginning of the show, but we probably ate hard boiled eggs every couple of weeks. And I said, "Yeah, we eat quite a few. Why?" And he said, "Well, I've just never seen this many eggshells in a disposal in my entire career of being a plumber." And instantly, I chirped right up and I was like, "Oh yeah, I saw on Pinterest that eggshells are great for sharpening the blades in the disposal. So I always put them down there for that purpose." Naturally, you guys, I was so proud of myself. Like I was this little know-it-all who, "Oh yeah, I'm doing my job over here." And then that sweet little plumber looked at me and he said, "Well, that's why your disposal isn't working. A disposal doesn't actually even have blades. It's not like a blender. It's more like a cheese grater. And it grates and crushes and it shreds things into fine pieces that then wash down the drain. And it works more like a pulverizer rather than a chopper. So you should absolutely not, absolutely not, put eggshells down your garbage disposal. Can you imagine the look on my face? Here I was doing something specifically because I read about it online and I thought that it was beneficial, and it turns out that it was the very opposite. So let me tell you, the look on my face got a whole lot worse when 20 minutes later we had everything fixed. My garbage disposal was back in working order, and he handed me an invoice for $450. I literally had to pay $450 for somebody to fix a problem that I purposely, yet very unknowingly, caused myself. Now, as you guys hear me retell that story, I'm sure some of you are laughing and some of you are shaking your heads thinking that I am a complete idiot. And the rest of you learned something new, which is do not, under any circumstances, put eggshells down your garbage disposal, because it does not work the same way that your Ninja blender does. So I'm glad that I can provide you guys all of that value in one single swoop. But the real purpose of that story is the valuable lesson that I learned in how easily it is to genuinely believe things that you see online, and how we shouldn't do that, but we wholeheartedly believe that there's some kind of truth checkpoint that any and all content is filtered through to make sure that it's accurate before being published to the world. But unfortunately, that is not true at all. Anybody can post absolutely anything, and it can be believed to be a cold hard fact by the people who read it. And I know that we know this, but do we actually know this? When we are sharing content online, it is our due diligence to make sure that what we are sharing is real and factual. And I can't tell you how many times I get on Facebook, I scroll my newsfeed, and I see people sharing content that is completely and utterly untrue. I'm sorry, you guys, but George Strait and Alan Jackson never teamed up to start an online petition to kick Bad Bunny out of the Super Bowl halftime show last year. I saw tons of people sharing that. That was not true. Your favorite celebrity probably didn't die yesterday. That one weird trick that doctors don't want you to know about. Yeah, doctors aren't afraid of it because that one weird trick does not exist. The government is not coming for your insert item here tomorrow. The outrage-inducing headline that you just read, check if it's from a satire site, because The Onion and Babylon Bee, I think I pronounced that right, they have made a career out of fooling people who don't bother to check the source of what they're reading. And while we might think that it's really funny to watch somebody believe in a fake headline, the reality is that they do believe it. They believe it to be a cold, hard fact as worthy as the Bible, and then they share it, and then somebody else believes it, and suddenly satire, it's not satire anymore, it's just misinformation. If you get on your Facebook newsfeed on any given day, you are going to see somebody sharing a post about how the world is going to run itself out of water, specifically from using AI, because data centers are using so much water to cool off their servers. I have seen probably 60, 70% of the people that I follow on Facebook sharing these posts. And I love every single one of you. And I don't think that you are wrong by any means. And I am not judging anybody for sharing this. But do we genuinely know anything about data centers? I'm not calling anybody out, and I'm not saying that it's not true. But aside from the fact that they take up a massive amount of space and productive farm ground should not be their place of construction. But that being said, does anybody actually legitimately, certifiably know if data centers, specifically AI data centers, are going to utilize enough water to knock the world off of its axis and out of existence? I mean, data centers now currently do exist for the cloud, which is where we all utilize things and store things, and they've never been a problem until now. So in theory, a Facebook data center or a Google data center is just as guilty as an AI data center. And ironically enough, we're using Facebook and Google to share this message, which again, do we legitimately, certifiably know that this is true? Or is it just something that sounds like it could be true and we're a little bit afraid of AI because, again, who with a brain isn't a little bit afraid of it to a degree, even if you are somebody who loves it and uses it daily? And it seems like it could make sense, so we're just going to share it anyways. I can guarantee that 98% of the people who have shared those types of posts, or the one about a neighborhood that turned into a ghost town because of the same reason, didn't actually take the time to fact check it before hitting share. And I do not mean Facebook fact check because what a joke. I mean, actually go to Google to type it into a search bar, to read 5 articles from different news sources and sides, and then form an educated opinion. On that same note, I mean, I hate to tell you guys this, and I'm sure that most of you know this as well, but one, half of the images that accompany those specific posts about AI data centers and how harmful they are to the world, half of those images, probably more than half of those images, are AI generated. So it is literally doing the complete opposite thing that you are trying to do. You are one, utilizing an AI formulated photo. 2, you are sharing that message on Facebook, which also uses a data center, which is also going to use water. So like, what the heck are we doing here? The other thing that I'm going to say about this is 75% of the crap that you share about your brand of politics, whatever it is, probably isn't true. You are literally being played. So please stop drinking the Kool-Aid. Stop believing that everything that you see online is true, and start using your God-given brain that is very, very smart, that should have the common sense to make sure that you fact check things. And again, not Facebook fact checked, like go actually research it before you share it. Another example of this, specifically Facebook, how many of you guys get recipes in your feed? Oh my gosh, I get them all the time. There is Marry Me Chicken. There's Marry Me Pork. There's Better Than Sex Cake. I mean, I feel like there's kind of a theme here, but I just can't pinpoint it. The list goes on though. The recipe is always a picture, and then the actual recipe is usually in the graphic or the caption. And either way, they look delicious, and who doesn't want a new recipe for something that your family might actually eat? I mean, I know that that is always what I'm looking for because my children are so dang picky, and whatever they loved yesterday, they will not eat tomorrow. And that's just how that works. But the page that is sharing them, it always has some kind of name like Mary's Home Cooking or Tasty Home. It's very generic, which in this example, I think generic makes them more believable. But here's where I'm going with this. Do you know how many of those pages technically are not real? I mean, sure, the recipe might be real, but just because Mary's Home Cooking shared the Marry Me Chicken recipe doesn't mean that Mary has ever made it. She's never home cooked a day in her life, and there's actually no telling that her name is even Mary. His name might actually be Hey Hey, and he lives in his mom's basement, and he's created 75 different Facebook pages, all with generic names that share home cooking recipes and kid activities for busy moms and life hacks you didn't know. Like, hey, did you know that you can put eggshells down your garbage disposal and it'll sharpen the blades? I mean, I guess technically, if you have made the recipe that Tasty Home shared, it is a real recipe then, but does it even taste good? The person behind that page, they don't give it to SHITS that your family actually likes the meal or that it tastes good or that it's healthy. All they want is traffic to their page so they can get more followers, so they can get more content shares, so they can make more meta money. And then once they get there, however many thousand followers, they're going to delete all of their content and they're going to start scamming people. If you want a real tried and true 30-minute meal idea, go find Rachel Ray. Go follow Ree Drummond. Go see what Paula Deen is up to, especially if you have extra butter on hand. But quit. For the love of all things, please stop sharing content that, again, you don't actually know that it is coming from a verified source. Now, back to AI, but moving over to Instagram. I'm not on TikTok, so I can't say this for sure, but I can assume that we can just lump TikTok in here as well. We all love a good reel, especially a very funny reel, right? A golden retriever who barks at his sidekick little girl every time she has a conversation with him. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. How funny and adorable. Move over Airbud because this talking dog, this is the new Airbud and it's going to come to a theater near you in 2028. But did you know that that reel is like 1,000% AI generated? There is no girl. There is no barking dog. There is no conversation between the two because it is completely fake. But we see it and we like it and we want it and we buy it. But instead of actually buying it, we're buying into it. We're sending it to our spouses in the DMs, to our BFF, to our mom groups. Oh my gosh, did you guys see this? How funny, how cute. But it isn't real. Some guy getting kicked by a horse, do you actually think that that happened to be recorded from the perfect angle at the perfect moment in time? No, it didn't. I cannot begin to tell you guys how much of the content that you see online isn't real. It's legitimately not real, which again takes us back to AI, how anyone with a brain, even if you use it and love it, should be a little bit afraid of the power that it has. It is so important. Hell, it isn't even important. It is vital, 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 that we become more mindful of the content that we are consuming, the content that we are sharing, and whether or not it is real. And this content is already good. I mean, some of it is pretty obvious, but a lot of it is not. It takes a pretty trained eye to see what's real and what's not, which is very frightening in a sense, because it's only going to continue to get better as time goes on. But number one, the more of that junk that you watch and that you share, the more that stuff fills your feed. Truly. What you interact with is more of what you are served. That's how the algorithm works. So some of you probably have a feed that is 50% filled with AI, and you genuinely have no idea. Number two, this is exactly why it is important to know what you're sharing. Is it real? Is it factual? Have you actually done your due diligence? Or is it just the thing that you want to believe, like George Strait and Alan Jackson have made a petition to kick Bad Bunny out of the halftime show? They don't care what Bad Bunny is doing, right? They're not worried about it, and you probably shouldn't be worried about it either. Number three, make sure that your trusted sources, your North Stars, are people who are the real deal, because this day and age, it is so easy for somebody to create an account, to post a reel every day for 90 days and to hit 100,000 followers in the process. The amount of followers that somebody had used to a degree, act as a layer of verification. You can't build a following if you have not built trust, but that is absolutely 10,000% no longer the case. Number four, what about all of those threats to our industry? How easy is it going to become for somebody to create an AI video of somebody using chemicals against the label, or abusing an animal in a dairy, changing the photo of a rangeland stream habitat to make it look as bare as your kitchen floor? And I am not somebody, I would hope you know this by now, who is not doom and gloom, but that is the kind of stuff that we have to be mindful of. Not because of what it has the potential to do to our industry, but how, when the tables are turned, we can so easily and so innocently be swayed to believe something that is completely and utterly untrue about industries that we know nothing about and people that we know nothing about. Have you ever seen that meme about how April Fool's Day is technically the best day on the internet because people actually use their brain and think about what they're reading online before they instantly jump fully into the pool and they are believing it to be true? It is hilarious, and it is absolutely accurate. We assume the world is out to trick us, so we actually read things. We actually do our research. We actually use our common sense to question things before we believe them. Oh my gosh, what a novel idea, right? I encourage you guys, treat every day on the internet like it is April Fool's, okay? If you aren't treating every day online like it is April Fool's, you are using the internet incorrectly, especially if you are somebody who is so naively taking the advice that he or she reads to heart. Like somebody else I knew who read somewhere that eggs sharpen the blades, those blades that literally do not exist in your garbage disposal, right? Like, I'm not calling anybody out. I told you guys at the very beginning of the show, I too have fallen into this trap. I learned my lesson and I paid $450 for it. But now that seems like a very small price that I paid, considering where the stakes are now, 10 plus years later. Now, I know that some of you guys are thinking, Jessie, this sounds exhausting. I do not have time to fact check every single thing I see online. And you're right, you don't. But here's the thing, you don't have to fact check everything. You just have to start asking yourself one simple question before you hit share. Do I actually know this is true? Not, does it sound true? Do I want this to be true? Not, did somebody I trust share this, so it must be legitimate? But do you actually know? Because if the answer is no, then I would encourage you to take a pause and consider not sharing it. It really is that simple. I mean, I get it, you guys. The internet is fun. It is fast. It is full of recipes and reels and things that make us laugh. And Lord knows that we learn so much information, most of it for free. And it is an incredible resource. And it also gives us a little dopamine hit when we need it. But we have to be smarter than the algorithm. We have to be smarter than the people who are creating fake pages to scam us. And we have to be smarter than our own confirmation bias that makes us want to believe something just because it fits what we already think. Because here's what I learned from those eggshells. Just because something sounds helpful does not mean that it is. Just because everybody is doing it does not mean that it is smart. And just because you read it online does not make it true. I paid $450 to learn that lesson with my garbage disposal. So don't let the internet cost you more than that, whether it is your credibility, your trust with your audience, your name and your reputation, or the integrity of the industries that we care so deeply about. So use your brain, question things, and for the love of all things holy, if you were somebody who was putting eggs down your garbage disposal, please don't do that. You can learn from my mistakes. I hope you learned something new today. And also, if you are going to make hard-boiled eggs, use the 10-5-10-minute method. It will forever change your life. I think that's probably enough for today, you guys. Thank you so much. I hope that you enjoyed this, that you got a kick out of it, that you at least thought like, oh yeah, I know this person. Maybe you should send it to them so that they take into consideration what they are sharing next time they get online. We'll be back here next week with a brand new episode of the show, again with yours truly as part of our solo summer series. Thank you guys so much for all that you do, for all of the shares, for the love, for those testimonials that you guys have given us throughout time, for all of the reviews that you have left over on Apple. If you have not done that and you love listening to the show, please do. Reviews are really important to us and we really, really value those. So if you want to do me a favor and go leave a review, we would absolutely love that. But we will catch you back here next week with a brand new episode of Leaders of the West.
If you loved this episode, do us a favor and share it with someone else who might find just as much value in it as you did. We're on a mission to continue to grow and strengthen the future of agriculture and Western industries, and you spreading the word helps us make more of a positive impact. It also makes a big difference when you take a minute to go rate and review the show. We can't thank you enough for listening, for sharing, and for loving Ag and Western as much as we do. We'll see you back here for our next episode.